Hello, and happy National Black Catholic History Month. Today is Thursday, November 9th, and this is the 93rd anniversary of the birth of Father Cyprian Davis, who is the author of this book. It's a definitive history of Black Catholics in the United States. And so I think it's fitting and proper that we're having this discussion about Black Catholic history on the anniversary of his birth, November 9th, 1930. He was born and he passed away in 2015. My name is Regennia Williams, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you to tonight's presentation and discussion on St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. The Roman Catholic Church in Cleveland has the honor of being part of the first all-Black parish in the diocese of the city of Cleveland. Sometimes this last 14 years or so of their history referred to as the Miracle on 83rd Street. My co-host this evening is DavidPatrick Ryan, and our guest speaker is Mrs. Phillis Fuller-Clipps. Mrs. Clipps is a member of Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Roman Catholic Church. Before I introduce her, I just want to remind you that this presentation is being recorded for archival and educational purposes because we want to be able to share the content with as many people as possible through both a YouTube broadcast and also a podcast, an audio podcast. We're asking, therefore, that you mute your microphones during Mrs. Clipps' presentation and use the chat feature to ask questions or make comments. I also want to acknowledge the support of the Western Reserve Historical Society, where Kelly Falcone Hall serves as president and CEO. WRHS is also my place of employment, and I have the honor of serving as a distinguished scholar of African American history and culture. I'd like to thank Cleveland City Council and Ward 9 Councilman Kevin Conwell for agreeing to support the History, Harmony, and Hope initiative and the Faith in Focus CLE series in particular. City Council is helping us present programs that consider the importance of history, the arts, and engaging dialogues about religious diversity in the city of Cleveland. Please know that an exhibition that is related to the history of St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, is currently on view at the Western Reserve Historical Society. You may have seen these promotional pieces in the greater Cleveland community. The title of the exhibition is simply Sisters, Portraits of Women Religious by Herbert Asherman Jr. And I want to invite you to stop by the Cleveland History Center on East Boulevard to see that exhibition before it closes on December 31st, 2023. Now, without further preliminaries, I want to introduce to some and present to others Mrs. Phillis Fuller-Clipps, who will tell us about her research on more than 100 years of history as associated with St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Church. And she'll also share some information about some of the notable sons and daughters of St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. After her presentation, we'll try to save 20 to 30 minutes for questions and answers with the audience. Mrs. Phillis Fuller-Clipps, the floor is yours.
Okay. Let's start the video. There we go. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Oops, slideshow. And there we are. Move this out of the way. Okay, as Regina stated, we are, go back. There we go. Okay. St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. We have been serving the Fairfax community for over 100 years, and we are the first African-American Catholic parish in the Diocese of Cleveland, the second in the United States. As some of you may know, we went through a process that started probably in 2008 through 2009, where the Catholic Church reviewed whether churches should merge, close, or be suppressed. Of the 52 parishes that were closed, 13 of those parishes decided to appeal, and we were one of them. We were the only African-American parish that appealed, and this is us right here in the middle of the Fairfax area. Of the 13 that appealed, only 12 decided to reopen and are doing well. The historic St. Peter on East 17th, although they won their appeal, they chose not to return to their historic site. So they are currently at 71st and Euclid, and they call themselves the Community of St. Peter. How we got to where we are today as being the church that, if you guys had a chance to watch the video, the historic Black church that fought and won, it was because of this young woman, Chloe Becker. She was a 2020 student of Magnificat. They were doing a study on agape love, and she was upset because she didn't know of any African-American saints. So she did her research, and someone told her to contact St. Adalbert because we were the first Black Catholic church in the Diocese of Cleveland. From Chloe's mural, which you see here, which is, if you are aware of Magnificat, when you go on their front doors, you go to the left, they have a chapel, and this mural is right next to their chapel. She chose saints, and she asked for 5 volunteers, and she had the people of St. Adalbert wear their street clothes. And she had us, she picked the names that she wanted. So she picked St. Benedict the Black, St. Monica, St. Augustine, which was St. Monica's son, Sister Thea Bowman, who was on the road to canonization, and Father Francis Holton, who was also on the road to canonization. And because of her article in Magnificat's marketing materials, the American magazine also heard about us through her and through her mural, and came out to St. Adalbert's to produce that video. And giving you a brief history on St. Adalbert and Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. St. Adalbert was originally a Bohemian church that was built in 1884, and it consisted of a church, 2 houses. North of the church, and a school and a convent south of the church was the rectory. The current rectory was remodeled in 2014 to accommodate the Congregation of the Evangelizing Sisters of Mary, which is part of the group that is in the display that is currently at the Cleveland Historical Society Museum. If you have a chance, you really should see that exhibit. It is a really phenomenal exhibit. Before we built our church, we as African American Catholics were permitted to celebrate the Mass as a congregation in the lower sanctuary of St. Joseph Franciscan Church. It was located on East 22nd in Woodland. For those who are familiar with the city of Cleveland, it was directly across from St. Vincent Charity Hospital. There was a grade school there, which was St. Joseph's, and then their convent and their rectory was there. But in the basement of this church is where we were permitted to meet. And this is St. Bridget Hall right here. There were about 100 Black Catholics that had started meeting and gathering and discussing the possibility of having their own church. Father McKinney was the first pastor. Mother Catherine Drexel was the founder of the Sisters of Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, who taught at St. Adalbert from 1922 until 1985. The Precious Blood, which was Father Melchior Lochterfeld, shepherded the community, the St. Adalbert, no, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament from 1937 until 2010 when we were suppressed. And this is a picture of the original building for Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. The building is still there and it is in use. It is now called the Greater Harvest Missionary Baptist Church. All of the other structures have been demolished. So this is the original land layout for the church and school. This is the church, which is still there, the rectory, the convent, school, and another school. They had two schools. When the church originally opened, or the school originally opened, there was about 100 students. So this is the interior of the church and the church again. There were about 100 students, and it was growing very quickly. The first graduating class was Father Melchior Lochterfeld again, and we had a wonderful relationship with the Knights of Columbus. When Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament was built, they had to come up with the funding. So between fundraisers with the Knights of Columbus, the diocese donated $10,000, and a lot of other generous people helped to build the church and the school. That came to, in January, they had a meeting with the bishop at the time, and subsequent meetings, April 11th of 1922, Bishop Shrem said that we could indeed have a parish, and it would be named Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. But we had to build a church and a school, which we did. John D. Rockefeller donated the original organ for Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. These are some of the founding members of Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. Their names escape me. And these are the symbols for the religious orders that nourished our spirituality: the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament and the Missionaries of the Most Precious Blood of Jesus. Many of you know about Sister Juanita Shealy. This is her sister's, Joyce Sanders, first communion picture. This is her right here. That's Joyce Sanders. This is Sister Juanita Shealy and her namesake, Juanita Shealy, when Juanita made her first communion. And it's Sister in her habit. When we moved to, by 1950, we knew that we needed more space because we were close to 200 students, but still occupying the same lands, which was here on 79th and Central. By 1945, the school at St. Adalbert had closed because of lack of enrollment. So there had been talk about St. Adalbert and Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament merging, but the people at St. Adalbert were not willing to do that. So as time progressed, in 1961, the bishop decided that the two parishes would canonically merge, which meant we would stay open, but we would become one parish. At the time, there were only 5 people attending St. Adalbert, and when the merger was made, those 5 people stopped coming. So white flight, we had the church to ourselves. So the students at the time walked from here, which was St. Adalbert on East 79th, down 79th, across a street called Lucia Avenue, across here. This is now the Fairfax area, and then this is St. Adalbert's where we are now. So they literally carried their books, their bags, and everything from here all the way over here. The 8th grade students carried the desks. The little ones carried the small boxes of books and pencils and supplies that they had. And this is St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament today. Another note, when we were told we could move to St. Adalbert, we were told that we could move, but we would have to build a school. So once again, we did fundraisers and we raised the money to build a school. Father Gene Wilson became the first African-American pastor of St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. And he had all the statues painted to reflect the culture of the people that it served. And he immediately went on vacation to California. And I had a conversation with him about that. And he said that he did that because he felt the statues should reflect the people that worship in that space. And he thought if he had the statues painted, went on vacation, by the time he came back, they would either have him removed or the dust would have settled and he would be okay. The dust settled and he was okay. And Sister Norbert Moline was the first African American principal of St. Adalbert School. Almost everyone who is a Black Catholic in the Cleveland area have their origins in Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. Sister Rosella Holloman, who is she just recently passed. She was a nun with the Sisters of St. Augustine. She went to Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. Father Clarence Williams, his entire family went through St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. Here's another picture of Father Gene Wilson. Father John Lloyd went through St. Adalbert. Sister Juanita Shealy. Bishop Light did not go through St. Adalbert's, but he was a very good friend of the people of St. Adalbert. And Brother Hugh Henderson. Brother Hugh Henderson was the first African-American brother in the order of the Missionaries of the Precious Blood. Uh-oh. Go back one. Okay. And as you can see here, Father Clarence William is the founder of the Institute for Racial Sobriety. Sister Juanita Shealy is an educator and a talk host. She taught for many years at Tri-State Metro Campus, and she was on the radio up until a few years ago. But she still is out and about and talks to anyone and everyone who wants to learn about Black history and Catholicism. Vanessa Bell Calloway is a graduate of St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. Earl Boykins is an NBA legend. His father is Earl Williams Boykin, and Earl is also the nephew of Father Clarence Williams. And then we have Leah Kuntz Oguderian, who is a gemologist and a frequent person on the Antique Roadshow. And then we have Thomas Clark, who unfortunately was the first African-American president and football coach at St. Joe's, but he died the night he graduated from high school. There were 3 students in the car and they all died. And St. Joe's established a scholarship in their names. He was a very beautiful person, and we lost him too quickly. And then we have Grandma Wilson, who everybody calls, her name is Leola Wilson, but everybody calls her Grandma. She was the chief cook and bottle washer from 1966 until 2020. She was tireless in her dedication to the church, parish, and the family. Today, we are at 540 students. We have grown from that one little building, from the one little church building, the church building and the school, to having an early learning center. And let me see what else. We have named the upper campus, which was the older building, Sister Juanita Shealy. The lower campus is named after Cletus Jackering. We have had a long-standing relationship with the Jackerings through Sister Juanita Shealy. The convent was named the St. Josephine Bakita Convent, and that houses, here it is here, and this houses our nuns from the Evangelizing Sisters of Mary. And here are a few of our, well, not all of statues, but there we are with St. Adalbert's, our church. Now, you are all invited to attend any of our services. They are only 1 hour long, and we spend more time in our coffee hour than we do in mass. and then where we are today. In 2010, when we became suppressed, we began the arduous process of appealing. There were two groups. One was called Code Purple. The other was the Endangered Catholics. And we came together as a group and put together our documents and developed a process on how to appeal to Rome. So, and we made sure we kept up with all of our guidelines and everything. So when we started writing letters, we would write the letter, and we got the letter for suppression. Then we had to say we had 14 days to respond. So we responded to that. We gathered petitions, and I think we had over 1,500 signatures on our petitions and letters to the bishop asking him to reconsider the suppression. And we met with the bishop, and he did not relent. So then that started after he told us, okay, I'm sorry, this is what I'm going to do. We started writing our letters. So we wrote letters probably every 6 months for about 2 years. And every time we responded to a question or a request that they had from the Vatican, we would send them the previous information that we had sent them along with a copy of what they were asking for that time. We wrote so many letters that the nuncio sent a letter back saying, I assure you, we have received your information. So then they started sending us letters saying, well, we need another 30 days to review. Please don't send us anything else, but be patient with us. And we continued that process until we reopened. When we were first suppressed, we would hold all-night vigils. We would walk around the church like they did in the Bible, where you do the 7 times around and you pray, you chant, you pray, you sing, and all of that stuff. So we did that for 7 nights. And then there were a group of people that went down to the cathedral every Tuesday, like clockwork, and they protested. The other thing that we did during our suppression is we had quite a few people that had just come into the church, and we were afraid that that would dampen their spirit or make them no longer want to be Catholic. So we became Roman Catholics, ROAMIN apostrophe Catholics. And we had a schedule, and we would go around to all of the churches in Cleveland with the agreement that as everybody found, if they found a church home that they were comfortable with, they would drop off and we would come back and visit them, or they could come with us whenever they felt like it. But once you joined the Roman Catholics, you got a copy of the schedule, so you knew where we were going to be. And we would have a Martin Luther King celebration in the school hall at St. Adalbert while we were roaming, and we would also do a November Black Catholic History celebration so that we could keep in touch. There were quite a few people who said that we should give up. Why are we doing this? Once the bishop makes up his mind, it's not going to change. You can go to Rome. It's not going to change. Actually, Father Clarence Williams' brother told me, he says, Phillis, there is no way in hell that Rome is going to overturn that decision. Well, when we got the letter that we were allowed to reopen, he called me back and said, hey, Phillis, this is Chuck. I guess hell froze over. So that's been our running joke between us. But I did not think that we would stay suppressed. I do believe if you ask, you will receive. And I think if you are persistent, then God will eventually hear you and grant your request. And that is why we are the Miracle on 83rd. When we had our 100-year celebration, which is one of the books that Dr. Williams had referred to, it was like a homecoming. Everybody and anybody who had gone through St. Adalbert came back to Mass that day. There were over 300 people there with standing room only, and they hung around for hours. I think that was the only time our Mass went more than an hour. But the bishop came, he said the Mass, and he stayed for about 2.5 hours. So it was a really, 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 really good, welcoming, homecoming that we had when we came back. 2 years after we were reopened, the Sisters of the Evangelizing Sisters of Mary came. So they have been a part of our family. And we just recently celebrated 10 years of being reopened. And in November of last year, when we were celebrating our 100-year anniversary, the pastor at the old Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament allowed us to come back and have a mass there. And that was a very moving experience. Those who could walked from St. Adalbert's back over to Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. Everybody else just drove. But it was so wonderful to hear the stories of when they were growing up and how they remembered the nuns and how the priests would go around and make sure that everybody was okay. And it was just a really, really, really good, warm experience. And it tells us that we are blessed. And I like to tell people that I think that being suppressed was God's way of telling us not to take our faith and our sacred space for granted. Because for that 2 years, all of the love and the nourishment we had experienced through the missionaries of the precious blood and the nuns of the Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, we didn't experience when we went to other parishes. One parish was so cold, we got in line for communion, and it's so sad because the homily was about loving your neighbor, being welcoming. But when it was time to go up for communion, nobody got in line with us to go in communion. It was like everybody from St. Adalbert was over here, and the people that went to the church was in this other line, and they just did not go to communion with us. It was unreal. But we invited ourselves to coffee hour. A few people were saddened by how their fellow parishioners had acted and invited us to come back. But it was a very heart-wrenching experience, a very moving experience. And I think I grew a lot from that. One, by not accepting no, because that's just not a word I can process. So, and with that, are there any questions?
Well, Mrs. Fuller-Clipps, I want to thank you for giving us that overview. Again, 100 years of history in about 20 minutes there. But there were a couple of things that I wanted to mention. First of all, thank you for referring to the film. I do want to mention the complete title of the film. It's 14 minutes long. It's available on YouTube. And it just states simply, this historic Catholic parish fought to stay open and won. And that's a lot to type in for a title. But if you just type in St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, and America Media, any of those terms, you're going to end up with that film, probably in the top 2 or 3 videos that come up. And it's a wonderful story that's told there. I also would like to mention this article. I'm going to hold all these things up, right? Just so we have a bibliography on the video. But this is a companion article for that video that we mentioned, the 14-minute video. It's really beautiful. And this is America, the Jesuit Review of Faith and Culture. And again, on the cover, it says, a historic parish fought to stay open and won. And you can watch it on youtube.com/America Mag. All right. So again, I would encourage you to take a look at that. I said to Phyllis, I really thought I was smart in 2009, 2010, in that academic year, when I really started to study the history of St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. I was teaching at Cleveland State University, and I published this newsletter, which I just love. You know, someone else did the layout and design, but I think it was a good summary of everything that I thought I knew about this congregation. And again, I'm not a member of the Catholic Church. I'm probably Baptist for life. But I enjoyed doing the research and certainly knowing that Sister Juanita Sheely was part of that congregation's history. But I must say, from 2009, 2010, when I did this, to 2022, when I was able to work with the congregation as they prepared for the celebration of their centenary in April. I believe it was that first Sunday after Easter, April of 2022. I learned so much more about what was happening in that parish in the historic Fairfax community. And certainly I learned the names from 2022 to 2023 of other Black sisters when for many years, Sister Juanita Shealy was the only Black sister in the Diocese of Cleveland that I knew by name. So Phyllis, all of that to say this, you asked for questions. You talked about the evangelizing Sisters of Mary, some of the Black women who are working with the congregation now, but can you tell me about their history with St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, and what brought them to this part of the United States?
I can, but before I go there, on Sunday we're going to celebrate. We had planned to hunt a 93-year-old birthday party for Sister Juanita Shealy, but she got COVID and was unable to join us. So we're going to do that this Sunday, November 12th. I talked to her. She's fine. She promises she's going to be here. So that if you are all welcome, if you would like to come. So
thank you. And now about these evangelizing Sisters of Mary. How did they get to Cleveland, Ohio, USA?
That was a chance meeting. Father Gary Tamura has a friend, a very good friend who is from Africa, and they were going back and forth, and the sisters wanted to come to America and begin evangelizing. And because he has 2 parishes and he lives at Our Lady of Peace, he said, come on, we'll find some place for you guys to stay. And that became, they were in the rectory. So when they came, we converted the rectory into the convent. And the nuns teach the children in the school religion and how to serve on the altar and a few other things. But they came and they've brought other nuns. So now there's about, as a matter of fact, since when you mention it, when we converted the rectory into the convent, that was the first convent that had been opened or established in the city of Cleveland in over 30 years. And that started with Sister Rita Mary, Sister Jacinta, and Sister Vicky. Since then, there are about, I think there are now 20 nuns here. Half are from the Evangelizing Sisters of Mary, and the others are the Sisters of Mount Kilimanjaro. But they are all educators. They teach, and I think Sister Jessie is a chaplain at St. John's Hospital in, I believe it's Westlake.
And thank you very much for that response. And although I know that the sisters can work in various parts of the world, I think it's worth noting also that both of those congregations, both the Evangelizing Sisters of Mary and also the congregation of Our Lady of Kilimanjaro, they're all from Tanzania. Yes. Yeah, and so, and I just think it's wonderful. And again, as you said, they are featured in the exhibition at the Western Reserve Historical Society. Just really wonderful. I love history anyways, all this gesturing and stuff. But the way that I was introduced to their history was through a man who is not Catholic. He is not Christian. He's a 4th-generation Jewish man who lives in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and his name is Herbert Asherman Jr. His son teaches art at St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, and it's his son who told him about these sisters from Tanzania who were working at this Black school in Fairfax. And again, he created these beautiful portraits. Sister Zainus Tarimo is the cover sister, if you will, for our promotional materials. And I just love their story and the fact that they were willing to cross an ocean, or maybe I should say that their faith bridged the ocean, and they made their way from East Africa and ended up on the east side of the city of Cleveland, my hometown. So don't want to hog up the whole discussion period, but I did want to get the.
Oh, one other thing about the Sisters of Evangelized Sisters of Mary, they
Yes.
have to be 25 before they can join. The minimum age is 25, so that is a serious commitment to get to be a young adult and then make that conscious choice to leave your home, your country, and come here to evangelize. That's saying a lot.
And may I share with you, Phyllis, there's some information that was in the chat. Thank you for so many fascinating details in the whole history, and laying it out so beautifully. Congratulations again for enabling the reopening. You work miracles. Okay, ever grateful, Sister Helen Jean. So again, do you recognize the name, Sister Fred?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Sister Helen Jean is one of our blessings through Chloe. Sister Helen Jean teaches at Magnificat, and that's how we met Chloe. So had it not been for Chloe, we would have not gotten the mural and everything else that all of the blessings that came along with it.
All right. And now, Phyllis, may I ask, and I want to invite our colleague DavidPatrick to weigh in on this as well. You mentioned that the sisters in the Evangelizing Sisters of Mary have to be 25 years old before they can really join the congregation. But I wanted to invite DavidPatrick to share some of the information that he's discovered through his research about Father Clarence Williams and the road to priesthood that he found himself on here in the city of Cleveland after he graduated from middle school at St. Adalbert. DavidPatrick, would you like to tell us a little bit about the son of St. Adalbert and the work that he did?
Yeah, I would be very happy to talk about Father Clarence Williams, who is in our the exhibit that I helped Dr. Williams put together at the Western Reserve Historical Society. The Sisters exhibit does have a included in it a box to Father Williams, as well as some wall text that I wrote up on his on his formation as a son of Saint Adalbert. That's what we're calling him, as well as a leader in advocating for racial sobriety in the Catholic Church. But I think that is kind of an interesting point that Dr. Williams points out, is that some of these sisters have to be 25 to choose the religious life. Father Williams was making that decision as an 8th grader, entering the seminary and choosing the vocation. So I was not very familiar with Father Williams before beginning my work with Dr. Regennia Williams, and was very happy to find what I found out about his home at St. Adalbert, but also that he had gone across the Midwest as a priest, but also across the world through his ministries that included ministries in Africa, ministries in Latin America, as well as bridging minority Catholic communities in the United States as well. I don't know if there's anything else in particular you'd want me to talk about, some of his publications, or what in particular you would like me to speak on. But I've been able to gain some familiarity as well as about Father Williams over the past few months.
Yeah. Well, I wanted you to be on screen when you said that, right? So everybody would know how young you are. No gray hairs.
Oh, sure. Well, you can see me, right? I think my video's on, right?
Oh yeah, I can absolutely see.
Okay, perfect.
I'm the one here, but I want people to know that I'm not the only one excited about it. There are young people who are excited about this history that's being made in Fairfax on the east side of Cleveland. And if you're a native Clevelander, I don't need to tell you that that's a Black community, right? But it's not just Black people whose lives have been touched in amazing ways by the work that happens at St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. And it's not just Christians. right, who benefit from the work that they do. And it's not just Americans, right?
Mhm.
We have these beautiful sisters, again, two different congregations, both of them from Tanzania. I wanted to say something else, Phyllis, just a little bit of an introduction, and then I'm going to ask a question. When I was researching the material about the history of Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, I wanted to know why we needed a colored parish. You know, that I have been told, and again, I'm the Protestant, right? That there's only one holy Catholic church. Why can't we have everybody in the same church? I understand Cleveland segregation, but I didn't know it was like that in the Catholic Church. But in 1922, among the things that the founding members of Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament wrote are these words in a passage from a book about their history. It's At the Altar of Their God, African American Catholics in Cleveland from 1922 to 1961. But they said in part, we are deeply conscious of the fact that our usefulness is greatly curtailed, that the holy aspirations which surge within the hearts of our boys to serve as acolytes at the altar of their God, or the virgin longings that inflames the souls of our girls for the loving, devoted service in the various activities of a Catholic parish, is in nearly every case, either smothered in the inception or finally withered away through lack of opportunity and encouragement. And close quote. But Phyllis, I'm just wondering, in your research, I won't say that they were angry, but this is a letter, a petition that was sent to the Diocese of Cleveland. But did you find that it took a while for them to get to that point where they said, look, our children are suffering. You know, they're being denied opportunities in the church. We need a Black church, okay, where they can serve in every capacity. So is that an isolated statement, or did you find a lot of that in your research?
That's not an isolated statement. That's how a lot of Blacks felt. And there were, after the church was started, the first African American Catholic church started in New Orleans, and then a lot of with end of the war, migration, everything, Blacks started to come up north. And as they came, they will go to it because because of the structure of the Catholic Church. It's a universal church. So everybody who is Catholic is a part of that one church. So that's why they can say that we were denied and not welcomed. And as those folks came to Cleveland and sought out Catholic churches, they were told the colored church is down the street, which is the lower level of Saint Joseph Franciscan, the Saint Bridget sacristy that they were allowed to worship in. They were not welcome. They were not allowed to be lectors. They were not allowed to serve. And being Catholic, you want that involvement. You want to be a part of the service. You want to be able to share your voice, your talents, your gifts. And they were not getting that there. So they felt the need, the desire to be insistent. And Cleveland has, every ethnic group in the world has their own Catholic church. You have the churches in Little Italy, you have Holy Rosary, you have Our Lady of Mount Carmel on the west side. St. Edward's was actually a Irish parish before it was given over to African American Catholics. So you had St. Adalbert was the Bohemian parish. You had, and St. Adalbert was an offshoot from St. Wenceslaus and St. Emmerich. So every ethnic group in the world had their own church, except African Americans. And we wanted some place where we could go and be ourselves, worship like we worship, and be welcomed. So it wasn't an isolated case. They were just fed up and had that persistent little knife to grind, and they just kept grinding it until they got it. The first letter they sent to the bishop was in January of that year. So I guess subsequent meetings, letters. The bishop was like the story they tell about in the Bible, where the woman is persistent, and the king finally says, "Give her what she wants, so she won't bother me anymore." I think that's the point that the Catholic Church probably got to with Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament.
And may I mention the name of another amazing sister? But she is not a sister in the sense that the other colleagues from Tanzania are sisters, but she's a sister in Christ. How about that? And her name is the same name as my father's oldest sister. Her name is Mrs. Lula B. Williams. And
Oh, she was so sweet.
yeah, tell me about her and her history in the church.
Lula is the mother of Father Clarence Williams. There were 5 boys. Father Clarence was the oldest, so it was Clarence, Charles, Carl, Willie, and Tommy. All of them went through St. Adalbert. All of them went through Benedictine, with the exception of Father Clarence. He joined the seminary in the 8th grade. But Lula was a daily communicant, never drove, either caught the bus or walked everywhere, anywhere she went. She was a school teacher, but she was a phenomenal woman. And she sang in the choir, and she was such a spiritual person. We used to tell everybody that we wanted to stand next to Lula because if the second coming came, we were going to be holding on to her. So they'd have to send extra angels to take her up because we would be holding her back. But she was a very, very soft-spoken person. And the Clarion bell set that we now have in our parish were donated in her name by her family.
Yeah, it's interesting, as I shared earlier, before we started recording, because I really want everybody to see this film. That was probably the 5th time for me to watch that film in preparation for our discussion today. So earlier this afternoon, I'm watching this film, but I realized this time I recognize people. The film was made in 2021, and I see Father Gary, still looking like Father Gary, right? He's like the tallest man in the church. And then I see Sister Juanita Sheely. Well, I would expect to see her there. That's her home church. But I also see Sister Rita Marema, one of the sisters from Tanzania. And I know I didn't know her name when I started watching this movie last year, but it's just been a real learning journey, right? To walk with the members of St. Adalbert through their centenary year, 2022. I guess you've stopped celebrating by now. All 365 days. There's a party every week at St. Adalbert during the coffee hour, certainly on Sunday. And now to know the names of these young sisters from Tanzania. So I'm looking forward to continuing the work with DavidPatrick, because the plan is to formally launch an oral history project about these sisters. And we have 2 whose names I would like to mention. Actually, they're American Black women. The one is Sister Jane Nesmith, and she is the Director of Ministries to Black Catholics in the Diocese of Cleveland. She's agreed to be interviewed. And the other is Sister Kendra Bottoms, who is an African-American sister. So may I just ask about nationality among Black people? Because someone said to me, and I'm not going to mention his name because I didn't tell him that I was going to do this, but he said of the sisters from Tanzania, their experiences are different. They're Tanzanian, they're African, but they're not Black. So I couldn't respond to that because they look Black to me. But can you tell me, Phyllis, because he's a member of your church, what do you think he meant by that when he said they're different, they're not Black? He didn't say it was wrong to be different, but he just says they're not Black. But how's the congregation reacting to their presence, and are they receptive to the work that they bring to the St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament community?
I think he meant there's a cultural difference, because they are Black, but there's a cultural difference. The African Catholics tend to be more Roman Catholic than African American Catholics. We have our Baptist fling, or our Baptist twist that we put on our Catholicism. We use the kente cloths. We sing. We're more Baptist Catholic than we are Roman Catholic. But the African Catholics are more strict Roman, pious. You know, I don't want to say respectful, but they're a little more stiff than we are. There's no other way to put it. They're a little stiff. They're very strict Catholics, and we're Baptist Catholics. We clap, we sing, we dance. They don't do that.
Yes.
So
Well, you know,
it's more of a cultural difference than anything else. It's just learning how to live with other people.
okay. Well, I must say, I find them to be very beautiful and very kind.
They are.
And willing to share about the history of Tanzania, which I had not focused on, even in teaching about the transatlantic slave trade. You know, I'm on the other side of the continent. You know, sub-Saharan Black Africa. You know, we got certainly Nigeria. You know, we've got Congo and the countries on that side of the continent. But they're over there with the Indian Ocean, and I'm focusing on the Atlantic Ocean. And so certainly I knew that there were other countries on the continent, that the slave trade also went east as well as going west, and that slavery also was part of European history. But I focused very deliberately on the transatlantic slave trade, and that didn't require me to study a whole lot about Tanzania. And none of my publications are related to Tanzania. We're going to fix that, beginning with the scholarship of oral history. And I'm looking forward to hearing their narratives. But Phillis, in talking about this difference, and you mentioned that some of the members of St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, are Baptist Catholic. I'd like to ask you about your history in St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, because I'm pretty sure that my colleague DavidPatrick Ryan is a cradle Catholic, but I don't know if that's true of you. Can you tell me about?
It is not.
It is not true. I want to hear your
My husband is a cradle Catholic. I am a convert. And the funny thing is, when our youngest two decided to become Catholic, the priest at the time was Father Jerry Steinbrenner, and he said, sure, we'll get them baptized. He said, but I need to see more of you guys. So I said, okay, we'll come. I had no intention on joining. Sister Juanita Shealy's sister, Aurelia, conned me. She was part of the Altar Rosary Society, which took care of all of they bought the wine, the host, the purificators, everything you need for the Mass. The Altar Rosary Society took care of it. So she says to me, she says, well, we need somebody to take notes. I said, I'll take notes for you, but I am not Catholic. And she said, that's okay. We just need somebody to take notes. And she asked me to do a few other things, but everything she asked me to do, I made sure I told her I am not Catholic. Some 30 some years later, I am not Catholic. And Aurelia Elliott is my godmother. So it was yeah, it's been a journey. And then when people say, why do you stay Catholic? And it's the main reason for me really converting to Catholicism is because growing up Baptist, my church was Calvary Hill Baptist Church on 103rd and Cedar that they tore down to do the Myers. You would go to church for Sunday school. You had 11 o'clock worship. Then you had the service. Then you went downstairs to eat. Then you came back for the evening service. So you were in church all day. And the pastor was so charismatic. I mean, he would do the screaming and all of that, and the people would run up and down the hall, the aisles, and it was just, I never knew what they talked about. But with the Catholic Church, I can go back and reread the readings. I can ask the priest if I don't know what his homily was about, and I can just sit and enjoy the Mass, and I can be one with Jesus every day through the Eucharist. So that's why I became Catholic, and that's why I stay Catholic. It's because of the Eucharist.
Okay. May I introduce another term to this discussion since I'm still Baptist? All that screaming and all that charismatic behavior, that's called the hoop. And so it's a style of preaching that we often associate with the folk wisdom that's shared in the Black Baptist services. And this is something that goes way back. Certainly to the 19th century. I've read some things about that in anthropological studies that have been done among Black people in the post-Civil War South. So yeah, that's the hoop, and there is a way to understand that, but it's very different. I agree, it's very different from the homilies that I have heard at St. Adalbert. But I must say, because I'm biased, it's no less beautiful than the homilies that I've heard at St. Adalbert. But I'm wondering at this point, DavidPatrick, are there other differences, perhaps not necessarily related to the preaching style or the manner of teaching, but other differences that, as an Irish Catholic American, you've noticed in the services that you've attended at St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament?
I mean, I would say it is actually strikingly similar in the going to the mass that to my home parish, and that I think it's a, at this point it's a smaller congregation, but like my home parish is also similar age range of the attendees there, and I felt very at home actually every time I went to St. Adalbert. And I think because of the nature of the Catholic Mass having the same format wherever you go, you can kind of fall in line and know, oh, you know what to say. You know that you all have the same beliefs about our religion, and it makes the differences of during the Mass, the attending, not so noticeable, right? Other than you just pay attention to whatever beautiful statues and architectures and you have at the church you're going to, and obviously it's great that the statues are painted black for the parishioners of St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, and it reflects their community. I would say the main difference I noticed is the coffee hour afterwards, because pretty much everyone attends that at St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, and it does go on for, as Phyllis said, longer than an hour. And I've thoroughly enjoyed all of my, all of the conversations I've had at those coffee hours. I would say at my parish, that also exists after our 10 a.m. Mass, but it's not an expected part of your Sunday plan. It's more of a, if you feel like it that week. So I think that strong, tight-knit community during the Mass and then afterwards as well is nice. Is maybe the biggest difference I've noticed just between any of the parishes I've gone to. But I also maybe we'll save this for later, but I have a question about the school for Phyllis. I don't know if we have time for it right now because we're getting close to our 7:30, I believe was when or no, I think we have time still, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you for confirming that, Dr. Williams. So I have a question for Phyllis about the schools, because and it goes back to the suppression of the parish, which is, you mentioned there are 500 students enrolled at St. Adalbert. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what
540.
540, which is quite large to me. I think even for the Catholic schools I attended were probably around 300 to 400, not quite 500 students for the grade schools. What would have happened to that school community that is an extension of the parish life, regardless of whether all the students are Catholic or not? What would have happened to the whole infrastructure of a school for that many students had the parish been suppressed?
Actually, the school stayed open during the suppression. Because we appealed to Rome, they could not do anything with our properties or anything. They just locked them up and couldn't do anything with them. But the kids at the parish wanted not the parish, but kids at the school still wanted that Catholic experience. So one of the Precious Blood brothers, Brother Tom Bowman, was still there. So he had a relationship with Our Lady of Lourdes on 55th and Broadway. So they would go over there to do their graduation ceremonies or whatever mass they wanted, or they would set up a mass in the school's cafeteria. But during that time, the school remained open, and we just used other churches to give the kids that experience, or had church in the cafeteria.
Would there have been a plan had the appeal not passed for that school to have closed eventually?
No, it would have remained a diocesan school.
Okay. Yeah, because I can just
Yeah.
only imagine just doing something with 500 students worth of, the school infrastructure, everything. It seems like quite the,
Well,
and this is kind of,
when we were suppressed, there were about, I think maybe 200 kids there.
Mhm,
So
okay.
when we got we hired a new, because principals are on contract. So
Mhm.
I think Father Ken Plyman hired the last principal before we were suppressed, and he was really interested in growing the school. So he was able to do that even though we were suppressed. And because of our relationships with Sister Juanita and the Deckerings, we were able to build space because we were literally bursting at the seams. So we were granted the funds to build the early learning center,
Mhm.
but the school was never in danger of closing. It's
Okay.
probably among the only that have grown during this time.
Mhm. Thank you.
And may I just share with you, I don't want you to miss this, Phyllis. There's a beautiful comment in the chat from attorney Michelle Frazier, who's thanking you for sharing your story because she's also a convert. And I'm guessing that she probably understands the hoop as well as I understand the hoop, right? I don't know, DavidPatrick, have you ever heard that before? About the preacher when he's in his highway of preaching, he's got the hoop going.
I mean, I don't think I've heard that term, no, but I definitely know what you're talking about.
Oh, you do know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't know that was the term for it, no.
It's a Baptist way of saying things. Thank you very much. And I must say also, this is not Baptist. When you go to a Catholic church and you hear things, the Hail Mary, Mother of God, and you see these beautiful statues. Here's an example of one of those beautiful statues in St. Adalbert that got painted black, right? And you're not supposed to go to church looking around, admiring the art, but I find myself doing that every single time that I go to St. Adalbert. So is there an appropriate time, Phyllis, when we can visit the church, not during Mass, but to look at the artwork and the stained glass windows? Are there times when people would be welcome into the sanctuary to take a look at the art?
Any Sunday before, after Mass, during the weekdays, the church is open because the kids have math. They have math on Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays are the lower levels. Thursdays are the upper grades because there's too many kids to fit in there all at one time. So, but anytime you are more than welcome to come. And for those who think that we are idol worshipers, the
Oh,
statues are there to focus, to keep you focused. Because when I pray, if I don't focus on something, I'm all over the place. I'm like, oh, I got to get this done, I got to get that done. But if I can bring myself back to that point of focus, then I can really focus and pray like I intend to pray, and not all over the place.
okay. And so if we want to come to the church before Mass and after Mass, then I need to know what time the Mass is. So I'm not
Mass
disrupting.
is at 11. The doors of the church are open at 10 o'clock.
Okay. All right. And then it's a 1 hour service?
Yes,
Okay. And the coffee hour just goes on and on and on.
it goes on in ad
There's
infinitum
several.
until the last person leaves.
Well, I asked that for a specific reason because I do want to go back to see the artwork again. I didn't take pictures of everything, but this is my absolute favorite picture that's associated with St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. And I really appreciate what Father Gene Wilson did, in trying to suggest, and this is something I still hear, not as much as I heard in the 1960s, that Christianity is the white man's religion, but to say to Black people that you can see yourself in this faith community, and there are reasons for you to stay here because we'll accept you as an African American Catholic. You don't have to deny yourself to feel at home in this space, in this sacred space. So again, love that, and also love the coffee hour. But I'm glad it lasts for more than an hour because one of the things I'd like to do is edit this video a little bit and then play it if you'll help me do it, right? Because you know the technology better than I, but play it during one of the upcoming coffee hours, probably not on Sunday since it's Sister Juanita's birthday celebration. And if she's 93 years old, and I'm pretty sure she is, she's gonna want to do a lot of partying. So
Oh, yeah.
maybe not on this Sunday, but perhaps we can find another Sunday here in National Black Catholic History Month to sit together with other members of the congregation and Pastor Father Gary Chimura to listen to your presentation again. Would that be okay?
That would be wonderful.
Okay. Now, who would like to have the final word? As our guest speaker, Phyllis, I'm going to offer that to you, but just want to make sure that I haven't missed any of the comments in the chat. Would you like to have the final word?
Just thank you for having me, and our mass is at 11 every Sunday, and Sister Juanita's celebration is Sunday. So we're going to have a birthday celebration, and we have a beautiful bench that we're going to dedicate to her. We're going to call it Sister Juanita Shealy Space.
Wonderful. And do you know what the weather forecast is? I know that that bench is in a beautiful garden right by, and we don't call it the rectory anymore. What do we call it? The convent?
Actually, it's a convent, but it's on the south side of the church when you go up into the church.
Okay.
So I think the weather is supposed to be nice, but we'll see.
Okay. But rain or shine, we're going to be there.
Rain or shine.
Okay.
Rain or shine.
There's one other comment I want to see. Oh, yes. And again, this is from Mr. Richard. Thank you very much for your presentation and the discussion. Just so you know, you were appreciated. But thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. And I must say, as far as the cultural differences are, Phyllis, I'm one of 6 children, and we're all pretty Baptist, right? And Thursday night in the Protestant community is a big choir rehearsal night. And I come from a family of musicians, right? I'm the one who wanted to be the music major, but had to change that major and ended up with this degree in history. But I have incredible singers, and you know one of them well, right? Lana Miller,
Yes.
but incredible singers. And she's over the music ministry at our family church, right? My parents were founding members of that church. So they did what the St. Adalbert, or I'm sorry, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament members did in 1922, but they founded a church in 1959 in the central community that was the New Joshua Missionary Baptist Church. And my sister is over the music ministry at that church. Thursday is a big rehearsal night for Baptist people. And so that's why
I think it is for Catholics too, because when we had a choir, our rehearsal night was Thursday.
Oh,
so
okay.
You could plan anything, but nothing on a Thursday.
Okay, so I'm glad then that we have this technology at our disposal so that we can be flexible and be creative in sharing it with other people, Protestants and Catholics. We can even be as diverse as that beloved community that Dr. King talked about, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, Muslims, Christians, all, I think, appreciate the history that we're able to share with the world because of the work that the members of St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, have done. So thank you so very much for allowing me to hang with you for about a year now. Thank you also for the manuscript materials that you contributed to our collections at the Western Reserve Historical Society. I know you heard about our library fire back in September, but I wish you could see my desk, right? I have so much St. Adalbert stuff.
Oh.
This related to Father Clarence Williams, who I did not know, right? I'm trying to figure out, I think we might be cousins or something, right? But I just love talking about this Williams family. And then this newsletter, again, with the artwork of St. Adalbert, is another one from the same series, right? Traditions and Beliefs. So I've been obsessing with St. Adalbert for a long time. Here is the program booklet for the centenary celebration, 100 years of worshiping God in the Fairfax community. St. Adalbert, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament, that's from last year. And then here's that newspaper article that complements the 14-minute video about this wonderful parish in Cleveland that fought to remain open and won. I hope you have a chance to read this and also to watch the movie if you haven't done that already. Thank you so very much for joining us this evening. And please stop by the Western Reserve Historical Society to visit with us. I wish I could welcome you to the library, but that's going to be closed for a while. So we won't be able to use the African American Archives, but we will be able to take advantage of all the great programming that takes place in that Cleveland History Center. So thank you very much. Good evening, be well, and God bless.
Take care.